give you a few seconds to get seated.
Of course.
Good afternoon, everyone in the room, and also everyone tuning in online. Before we start, I would first want everyone in the audience to give a round of applause to Hind Siddiqui and the Siddiquis for organizing one of, if not, in my opinion, the best watch fair of the year. Sadly, it's every 2 years. I wish it was every year, but it's fantastic, and I'm sure everyone in the audience will agree as well. My name is Austen Chu. I will be your moderator today. I am the co-founder and CEO of Wristcheck, also known as Horoloop on Instagram. And today we are talking all about collaborations. And so in the luxury world, over the past 100 years, collaborations were very rare, but in recent years, they have been thriving. Is the sum better than all its parts, or is the industry better off with more competition? Today, I have two incredible guests with me, both GOATs in their own rights. To my right, I have François-Henry Bennahmias, the global CEO of AP. In his 11 years as CEO, he took the company from $500 million turnover to $2.4 billion turnover, all the while reducing points of sale from over 300 to now, 50 something?
Less than 100.
Huh? Less than
100.
Exactly. All the while growing the business, increasing margins, and now they do more turnover than Patek Philippe while making a lot less watches. And before he was CEO globally, he was the CEO of the US, where he initiated and started kind of this trend in the luxury watch industry, and has created some of the most culturally important collaborations to date. To my further right is Mr. Omar Johnson. He is the ex-CMO of Beats by Dr. Dre, and was really there when the company became a thing, right? And afterwards, you became VP of marketing at Apple, and now you are the founder and CEO of your own company, Opus Limited, where you work with some of the best talents and brands from around the world, including some brands that are actually showing at Dubai Watch Week. And so welcome.
Thank you. And still wears Audemars Piguet, which is...
I've got good friends.
So, Francois, what was the landscape like 25 years ago or 30 years ago in the watch world? Collaborations were not really a thing. Audemars Piguet was nowhere near at the level that it is today. What was it like, and what was the experience in starting the first collaboration?
First of all, I think the very first collaboration that we've ever done with AP was in 1989 with a golfer named Nick Faldo. And golf was already a part of the Audemars Piguet world, and we made a special watch together that is still very sought after in today's world. But that was 1989. Eventually, we brought on board Garry Kasparov, the chess player, Alberto Tomba, the skier, and many others, but the real first big sparkle that went world was the partnership with Arnold Schwarzenegger in 1999 and 2000. That's when we started to really go world, basically with this collaboration, making limited edition watches, raising money for charities, and all those type of things.
And Omar, I remember, I'm 26, so I was in school when Beats started, but I remember I did not care about headphones at all, or earphones at all, until Beats by Dr. Dre came out.
Yeah, so before Beats, I was at Nike. And so much of Nike's business is we have a lot of shoes. You only need 2 or 3 pair of shoes, but we all have way more than that. They have these irrational purchases. And so much of how Nike did that were interesting collabs. I just bought that playbook to headphones. Headphones was an old, staid category. I think the headphone category when I got there was $700 million. When I left the headphone category, it was $10 billion, right? So we grew the entire category by bringing more people into it, people like yourself. And for a long time, the category ignored people like you. They talked to audiophiles and musicians and not the everyday person.
And people who sit in business class on planes with noise-canceling headphones, but that's not 99% of people.
No, that group is this tiny. So if you want to fight over guys who can afford to pay $300 for a pair of headphones to fly, tiny group. But if you want to get people who want to block out noise, girlfriend noise, boyfriend noise, neighbor noise, employee noise, right? So that's how we opened up the category. And so much of how we brought new people into the category were collaborations. I mean, we've done hundreds of them.
Amazing. So let's move on to collaborations. Francois, you mentioned the first collaboration was with Arnold. Your collaboration was with Arnold. I remember in the early 2000s, you know, one of the musical goats, Jay-Z. Tell me a little bit about that and how that started and how groundbreaking that was in the Swiss watch industry.
Yeah, so I got to meet Jay for the first time in 2001 through friends we had in common. And the first time we actually met each other, he had already 14 Audemars Piguet watches. So he was already a part of the Audemars Piguet family without me knowing anything about. And on the first time we met, I will always remember he say, one day we'll make a watch together. And in my mind I say, that's a stretch. I don't know how I'm going to be able to sell these to people in Switzerland. But anyway, fast forward, I spent a lot of time with him in studios, in the clubs, and having fun. And in 2004, I flew with 2 pictures to Switzerland, a picture of Jay and Prince Charles for a very high-end horse race, and a picture of P. Diddy with William Lauder when they launched their fragrance together. And I explained to the people in Switzerland then that hip-hop, what was becoming what was jazz in the 20s, started in the African American community and eventually became mainstream. And if we had to partner with someone in this world of hip-hop street culture, it would be Jay, because Jay was the king. And we got the rights to make a special edition of 100 watches that we sold in the US. We called Apple, okay? We called Apple, true story, now we can say it, because we wanted to make an iPod with the colors of our watches. And Apple said, no. So what we did, we still bought the iPods and colored them ourselves to match the different materials of the watches. There were 50 watches in stainless steel, 30 watches in gold, and 20 watches in platinum. That was a real game changer in the world of luxury, in a sense of, and if you remember, at that time, sneakers were sold in sports stores. Nike, Adidas, Puma, Reebok, everything. It's only a lot later where we start to see sneakers appearing in luxury fashion brands. And fast forward to see Pharrell Williams doing his fashion show on the Pont Neuf in Paris very recently. It's 18 years ago, we said we might have been the first one to open the doors.
Incredible.
Yeah, you were. Not only were you one of the first ones to open a door, but you did it in a very unapologetic way. I watched a lot of brands in that same era get very close to hip-hop, but never really go and touch it. And you actually were comfortable putting hip-hop on your product. I'm not sure how many European brands were comfortable doing that, but I think you were one of the first. And it opened up. What's funny is no one fast followed you. I would have expected 10 brands to come follow you, and no one followed you. And you did it over and over in really intelligent ways, but no one followed you, which was crazy.
Yeah. And so, you know, let's go back, zoom out a little bit. Yeah. What makes a great collaboration? And this is a question for both of you.
I'll start. So, as someone who's done a lot of collaborations, you're always looking for an audience on one side that has a product and a brand on the other side that has another product. And you're looking for things that you can celebrate the ethos of both brands in one product. Because if you do it well, right, the audience from one brand, the audience from the other brand, they come together. Hopefully, when those two people separate, those two brands separate, they both grow a little bit. And I've used collaborations across headphones, across footwear, across technology. I mean, there's even I've got a AP Beats headphone prototype. We never made it. I found it like a month ago. I gotta send you a picture of it. I don't think you saw it because we never launched a headphone, but we were launching a headphone and we did a collab together. But it was always about how do we bring different audiences together. It could be, headphones was an incredibly male-dominated category. 70% of the headphones in the world were sold to men. And all the marketing also was to men. We did collaborations with Hello Kitty. We did collaborations with Barbie before the movie. We found ways to bring other people into the category in authentic ways. And when you think about the spirit of collaborations, it's that. And how are you doing something that's authentic to both audiences? I think for brands that haven't tried it, it's something you've got to find a rhythm of doing. And Francois will tell you some work really well, some don't. Right? But you've got to get in the business of experimenting with a few, and you've got to find partners that also want to celebrate these ideas like you do and are equally committed to making something special. So that's kind of was our playbook for collaborations.
On our end, it's pretty simple. We've made a point of never using celebrities in advertising to say, look, I'm wearing Audemars Piguet, this is the best watch company in the world. Because it would have never worked, because our clients, in their own ways, are these number ones in the world in business. They are not the entertainers, they are not the athletes, but they are number ones. And it wouldn't make any sense, oh, I see the advertising, so I'm going to buy the watch because of that. There is much more depth. So the one word to describe a great collaboration is authenticity. It has to be genuinely authentic. It has to be real. And most, I would say 95 of our collaborations through the years were done with people that were already wearing Audemars Piguet. A funny one about Garry Kasparov, the way we found out, when Garry Kasparov, who used to wear a Rylock, was playing chess, okay, he was putting the watch next to the chessboard, what he was playing. And if he would know 5, 10, 20 moves in advance that he would win against you, his sign would be to put the watch back on, meaning you're done. And all the things have values. That's how you built actually the relationship. Jay had 14 watches before we started together, so it was easy. And then we went with the Quincy Jones and Ushers and many others after that. They were already in the Audemars Piguet world. So it was, in the eyes of the people and the client, authentic. They could talk about it and being real. That's what matters the most.
And guys, when he says authentic, we all live in a world now of celebrity-endorsed products. Celebrities take big checks to wear a product. They wear it, they take a picture, they put it down, they put something else on. So to his point of having people already in the family, already wearing the watches, he was ensuring against that person not taking money and walking out and not wearing the watch. So again, I think you did something special, not only because you were across music, sports, art, fashion. And I don't say fashion. I think you kind of made some fashion
It's coming.
Oh, sorry. Well, coming soon. But I just watched you experiment across a few different... And I think that's also part of the authenticity of finding your niche in different product categories. I think you guys have done an amazing job at it.
Omar, building upon what you just talked about, for anyone in the audience or anyone watching who's starting their own brand, own watch brand, own whatever, how do you start if you're new? Because when you joined Beats was, nobody knew what Beats was, but you were able to work with the most prominent celebrities, the most successful, the biggest celebrities on earth, and it was organic because you saw them walking down the streets wearing Beats headphones on their regular, by paparazzi. Yep. How was it?
Look, I think when you start, you got to find, if you're a new brand looking for partners and looking for smart collaborations, you've got to do your research and find the people that are already connected to your, whether it's a product or your values or your ethos or a common problem you're trying to solve together. The common problem could be innovation. The problem could be, how do we celebrate design with the material? You've got to find people who authentically have a passion or values that you align with. I think if you start there, you end up with interesting ideas. Because when you go meet them, it's not transactional, right? Because it was like, how do I find a popular... I get the question every month, can you get me a celebrity to help me sell my X or my Y or my Z? And I'm like, no. Of course I can get you somebody you can write a check to. But how do you find someone that has an authentic point of view on what you're trying to build so you guys can come together and make something together? That thing could be a Netflix show. That thing could be a piece of content. It could be packaging. But you've got to find something that you both value and want to make together. And that was always part of how... Look, our collabs are very easy because our collaborations were paint. Okay? When I did a collaboration with someone, it was paint. It didn't cost me a lot of money. when this guy does a collaboration, right, to make 100 units, 50 units, I don't want to know how much it costs. I'm sure it's astronomical. But they have to be a lot more deliberate. So again, I think it depends on your category. For this category, I think you have to be very deliberate, and you might not move as fast. Where with headphones and sneakers, we turn through collaborations very quickly. And we weren't super, I wouldn't say super religious with it, right? We found, as long as it was an authentic story, as long as we found something fun to do together, we had fun and we did it. Like I said, some were huge successes. And what I would also go as far as to say is the things that we didn't think were going to be super successful, sometimes we had these viral successes. And they were things that felt like slam dunks. We made a headphone with Coca-Cola. There was no way you make a headphone from recycled Coca-Cola bottles, the biggest brand in the world, and nobody cares. Nobody cared. Okay? 0 people cared.
Failure.
A complete, absolute failure. Nobody cared. Well, and that's the good thing about bad marketing, right? Nobody sees it.
Only the P&L. Only the P&L.
Right,
that year.
exactly. Only the P&L. But again, with collaborations, you find places to. I'm sure you have some bodies buried in places also. But like I said, you have to be in the mix, and you've got to start to find a few. So all you new watch brands out there, find some authentic stories to tell with someone that has a large audience. It takes a little bit more time, a little bit more research, but when you find it, that's when you get to true magic. Because now you're not sitting there talking about transactions and checks and these very, again, transactional points of view. You're talking about making something together.
Amazing. So the watch industry in the past few years, collaborations have been exploding, right? I almost seem to see a new collaboration in the watch industry come out every week now, for good or bad. So how does a brand balance, not being diluted and not doing too much? Like, what is a good balance for brands? And do you think there's such thing as too many collaborations?
Sure, you have to be careful because, like you said, now in the watch world, you see collabs being announced almost every single week. So at some point, if it's not meaningful enough, we go back to that notion of authenticity. Genuity, it has to be real. If it's not real, people, no matter what the price point is, will not buy into it. Today, you have to really, and especially with the younger generation, you can be spreading messages as hard as you want as a brand, but if you don't show what's behind the curtain and play full transparency, you're gonna get hurt. Because if you're caught in a lie, in what you stand for, on the way the deal was put together, then you're dead. And it doesn't make any sense anymore. Mm-hmm. So you have to be extremely careful, and you have to be willing to stand the course and saying, you know what you are doing it for, you know that it's going to be this, you know that you're going to be judged. How good the partnership could be, people will judge it and maybe say, that was not the right move. But you have to go with what you believe in.
And great things take time, right? You said you had a meeting and you talked about something that was supposed to happen in 10 years happening in 2. Great things take time. So, it's like if there's a manufacturer out there that's like, we want to do collaborations and they're coming out really fast, that means you're not taking your time. That means you're not caring for your customers. You're not caring for your product the way you should care for your product. So, I like collabs. I think they're a great way to bring new audiences together, but you've got to be very deliberate to do something that's material. Headphones, you're going to live with headphones, you're going to live with sneakers for 6 months, 7 months, a year maybe. You're going to live with this for your life and maybe the life of your child. And that's something that you want to know that someone took the time to care for something that can be passed down to your children and passed down to your children's children. So again, I think for every product there's a different time scale, but I think time is also an important component. And if you're the kind of company that's just turning out collaborations, eventually your customer is going to go like, do they really care? Are they really investing the time in making something meaningful for me, for my family, what I'm going to wear on my wrist? So again, I think it differs depending on what category you're in, but time's got to be a critical ingredient.
And at Beats, with collaborations, I remember in the beginning, you guys were collaborating with so many celebrities from around the world as well. How do you pick who you collaborate with at that level? If you're trying to, because Beats at the end of the day is a much more commercial product than a brand like AP, right?
Yep.
And how did you go about doing that? I mean, I remember in China, you guys were, when I grew up there, you were picking the hottest up-and-coming people, and you got it almost on point.
Yeah. So
Omar is Chinese.
I'm from a lot of places.
Wait, are you serious?
Here's the reality. The anatomy of like who to choose to work with is not very hard. If we're going to go get Jay-Z, that's way too easy to be right. It's probably going to be too expensive. If you say we want to go to basketball, we get LeBron, too easy and too right. How do you find the next LeBron? How do you find the next Jay-Z? And so much of the questions that we asked at Beats were, how do we find the next big star? And then it's funny because they're not hard to find. If you think about who's the biggest rapper? Somebody in the room tell me, who's the biggest rapper right now in the world? You said somebody said Travis. Somebody said
Kanye, Drake.
Drake.
I
I'll
heard
use
Drake.
Drake. I'll use Drake for example. Drake. I mean, when you look at his sales, one of the biggest rappers on the planet. You gotta look. Drake is, I don't know, 30-something now. Drake's cool, and Drake does a lot of stuff that moves culture. But Drake's also looking at the next generation. So if you want to find who's going to be cool like next, find who Drake is following. Drake's always looking for the new young sound. We were always looking at where the big talent was looking next. You could find it on a pitch. You can find it on a cricket field. You can find it any genre where there's big talent, because most of the mature talent knows where the next talent is. So a lot of my questions when I walk into a locker room are, I know you're the star, right? You're number 10. Who's the next number 10? And I ask that question in every sport, from rugby to basketball. Same question in recording studios. If you go ask Jay-Z who he's listening to, that's the person to focus on. So back to your collaboration question, when you're looking for who to partner with, don't always look at the obvious answer. There's somebody in front of that person or someone that person is looking at that is probably even better answer. And if you get them early, they're a lot cheaper, as you know, a lot easier to work with. They show up on time, they come early, they stay late. Once they get really big where you really want them, hard to work with. So we try to always be early.
Is what you just said called inside trading?
It sure is. It sure is. But it's not hard, right? It's not hard, it's not impossible, and guess what? It's not illegal, right? So insider trading in finance, illegal. Insider trading when it comes to celebrities and who's next, not illegal, actually not hard if you just focus on who's following who. And like I said, the big stars you probably want in your brand are probably following the next star. Takes a little bit of investigative work.
It's funny actually because I was sharing the story yesterday, but as I said, I met Jay for the first time in 2001. Who introduced me to LeBron James when LeBron was 18 years old? Jay-Z. Jay-Z told me, because he was actually some kind of endorsing LeBron when he was very young, he'd say, you should sign that kid because he's going to become a rock star. We eventually signed LeBron many years later, but I got to meet LeBron for the first time when he was 18 years old, and thanks to Jay as well.
Wow, that's incredible. And so let's go deeper into the watch industry in terms of collaboration, something less on the surface. You guys are known to collaborate with, I mean, you guys make a lot of watches for other brands as well. That's a different type of collaboration. Is that something that you want to see more of in the industry? Does that make the industry better as a whole? Or does it actually create laziness for other brands?
No, there is not a perfect answer to this, because when we partnered with Richard Mille at the beginning, he needed an industrial support for his mechanism, for his movements. Mm-hmm. So he came to us and we had some capacities. So we started to develop and to help him develop his brand, and eventually we took shares into the business. But we never looked at this as something that we should actually copy and paste all the time. Audemars Piguet on its own has got so much more things to do for the coming years. Now, if, and it's a big one, something comes up where we could actually invest into a company, I'm saying maybe, but there are no such discussion as we speak. Because before going to other brands, what we might achieve is consolidate our industrial network and sustain suppliers to make sure that 100 years from now, they will still be in business. That matters most to us now as an independent company than going and develop another watch company.
That's very noble. And yeah. Okay, great. So in your experience as well with Beats, how was it? How did you guys do cross-genre collaborations? I mean, you guys didn't just work with certain type of athletes. You guys did a bunch of other products as well, collaborations. Like, how would one approach that, essentially? And same question for you, because you did the same.
No, I think that's the idea. The idea is, how do you find different genres to pull different people from? How do you connect with different passions? So if music is passion, you start there. We want to do not just music. We were in K-pop first, right? So before K-pop became K-pop, we were there, right? When K-pop was really big in Japan,
Yeah.
which is where K-pop really kind of got its start. So much of it was, how do we bring new people into this category and how do things that they love? I can tell you, I'm from Brooklyn. I didn't grow up with rugby, right? But when you look at some of the most epic campaigns done around rugby, it was us. I didn't grow up around cricket, being from Brooklyn. But we did a lot. We did the entire Indian Super League. We ended up making product for every year. So for us, it was all about how many diverse communities could we put our product in. And again, I think there's a depth that you have to go beyond. Mm-hmm. And there was not only what we did from a genre perspective, there's things that, like the Olympics. We are in the Olympic year, we're coming into Olympic year right now. You're going into a year where you're going to have 10,000 athletes, where the most important thing for those athletes are their country. How do you connect with that passion? When all those athletes get off the plane, when they go back with their medals, what are they wearing? That was our goal. Our goal wasn't, hey, we want to make sure we get the best athletes. We wanted every athlete that won a medal to go back home off of the plane with a medal around their neck and headphones to match. So we found ways to connect with them. So again, for us, it was not just the genres of pop culture. It was also country pride or school pride or finding moments in culture that we could celebrate together and making a product to support them.
Yeah, and it's funny because that could open the door to the Marvel collaboration.
Yeah.
Because when you think about when we launched the partnership with Marvel, some people were shocked. Why a brand like Audemars Piguet needs to do something with Marvel? The story was that in the early 2003-04, I went to see people from the Marvel brand in New York City. And at that time, Audemars Piguet was not obviously who we are today. So we got thrown out the door. So basically, who are you? Get out of here. We don't want you. We don't need you. Which is the best way to convince me that I'm going to come back at you harder than ever at some point. And I'm willing to wait. And in 2010, on the red carpet at the Tony Awards in New York, I got to meet Don Cheadle, and we became friends. And eventually we found each other in Paris, completely unplanned, by luck, and that was in 2017. And I said, years ago I had a dream that I would do something with Marvel. He said, Marvel? Sure, I'm going to call now. And he called in front of me, Kevin Feige, the CEO of Marvel, and he said, hey, I'm here with my friend François. You want to do something with Marvel? Kevin on the phone, sure. Meet me in Los Angeles in 3 weeks. 3 weeks later, Don Cheadle walked me into the Los Angeles studios. We had a complete session with the people from Marvel. Unbelievable company in a sense of everything is so well planned. It's 5 years in advance. They know which movie, which character, how many people they want. It's crazy. We had to sign not one DNA, but a zillion NDAs. And that's how it started. And when we launched Black Panther, it was, what are you guys doing? Why? But people do not know that in the watch industry, comic characters appeared in the early 30s on dials, on specific watches. Mickey Mouse, Donald, all those type of things. And in the 1990s, Gerald Genta, one of the best ever designers of watches in the world, put these characters back on his watches. Mickey Mouse, Pluto, Donald, all those type of things. And I say, who are the characters? Who are the Disney characters of the 21st century? Who are the superheroes? Marvel. So suddenly it was making sense, but instead of just playing with it and putting an image of the character on the dial and playing it basically cheap, We say, no, we got to do what watchmakers know how to do, sculpting, everything. And the character itself, when we launched, it's a serious watchmaking piece of art. We launched the watch. Some people judge us very badly. But as I always say, it's like in a boxing fight. Who is the last man standing? It was a limited edition of 250 watches. They sold out. To this day, the watch is worth more than its retail value when we launched. And that's the way it worked. So it was a success. Spider-Man, Wave 2, Season 2. Go back at it. Bigger launch, Spider-Man, #1 franchise for Marvel in the world. Because they told us that we should start with Black Panther. Okay, and then say, next one, you do Spider-Man. Sure, let's do Spider-Man. We are delivering the watches as we speak. Now people say, it's kind of cool. And maybe 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, people will look back and say, actually, it was not too bad.
And they might collect it all, right?
You know.
And guys, notice he's been at this for a long time. Notice some patterns in what Francois said. He plants a lot of seeds. What can we do together? What can we do together? What can we do together? He takes no as a yes. Just puts some water on a seed and he goes and plants some more seeds, right? That's also a big part of how you look at collaborations. They're not a linear process. It never happens in a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You plant seeds, you find different places that you want to do partnerships. And then when the right time happens, right? It just kind of happens. But you got to have those seeds planted. If you have a down cycle, business is bad, and you do a collaboration, probably not going to work for you. But if you plant those seeds around, as those things come back together, you will find the right times. And I think your patience is just as powerful as your foresight.
Did you say patience for me?
Yeah, I did say patience. I did. It's an elusive patience, but there's a patience there, which I guess comes with time. And I think you've been a master at, like I said, planting those seeds. Even with the thing you announced before we got on stage together, you planted a seed, and that seed found its way to develop. So again, I think you have to find those opportunities to plant seeds in different places and harvest them when it's the right time. Because again, collabs typically are not a linear process, and if they are, they're probably going to feel that way to your customers. And when you say do what watchmakers do, and what watchmakers do is make things, right? They find ways to celebrate things and make things that celebrate time. So I think it's more than just like doing what watchmakers do. I think you have to give it some more context and texture. I've been to your, where you guys make your product, and it's art, it's engineering, it's technology all at the same time. And I think you just have to everything you do has to embrace all those things. To his point around paint's not enough. It's got to truly be something that was made.
Yeah, incredible.
And I'm not paying him for that.
Not yet.
And so, Francois, for Audemars Piguet, you guys have been very big supporters of the arts, golf, all of this type of stuff. What does it mean for the brand when you support, an exhibition such as Art Basel globally? It doesn't bring direct commercial value. Why?
Collaborations are not always about selling. It's positioning your brand, because today no one can tell you that one specific thing will work better than another. And today, to touch clients, you've got different points that could actually impact them. I remember at the beginning, where it was 2004 or 5 in the US, we had a dinner in Detroit with some clients. And at the end, and they were prospects. Few of them were already clients, but most of them were prospects. And at the end of the dinner, 5 people bought watches for 5 completely different reasons. They found out that we are supporting different charities. Say, you guys do this, it's a great job for kids. Boom, I want to be a part of what you do. Some people saw that we are involved with the music world. You know what? I love music. I'm going to buy the watch. And on and on and on. And today you have to be very curious to see how you could touch people in any way, shape, or form. But if you go into this thinking that it's an immediate success and sell, then you're dead. Because basically, when we signed with Art Basel, it was now 11 years ago, nobody looked at us and said, wow, that's a smart move. Actually, it was another watch company is going to partner with this world. we had zero legitimacy in that field. And we made a very serious point of never crossing the bridge of, you know what, let's use art and put this on our dials, just for the fun of it, because it would have been a joke. So we respected this world to the utmost level to make sure that people would start slowly but surely to say, actually, they do the job right. They don't try to overcompensate the fact that they are not an art company or art people, even though part of watchmaking is art, but it's not the same. And now, 10, 11 years later, we can say that the bridge has been crossed and we could do many more things because we've earned the respect from these collectors, but we'll never be able to say, oh, because we spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 million a year on partnering with Art Basel, it's a guaranteed 50 million sale. Mm-hmm. It helps you position the brand to keep going forward.
So long-term vision's very important as well for certain collabs. Amazing.
And also not being so focused on what's in it for you, right? So when you think about an Art Basel, which is a great example, the people who go to Art Basel are there every year. So when a brand shows up and leaves, they see it. They dismiss that brand. But if you're there consistently and you find ways to contribute to the art community, and again, when I say contribute, it's not always cash. It could be facilities. It could be platforming some young new artist. Every time I took any brand that I work with out into an arena, whether it's sports or music or fashion, we figured out how do we leave something behind? How do we invest in that category? And if you do that and you do it consistently, you find a lot of open doors. When Beats went into different countries, to different places in the world, we always bought something. We tried to elevate people. And that spirit never gets a no. It always finds a way to be successful. So for us, it was always investment, not always looking at what we can take, doing it consistently. And if you're there consistently, you'll see those people just start to come to you organically. So just wanted to add some dimension to it.
Amazing. On that note, I guess we'll start opening the audience.
Can I ask the first one? I need to ask you my first one. First question. Who you would have ever dreamt about working with that never happened at Beats?
And you need to answer the same question, François.
Wow. That's a great question.
Who is missing?
Prince. The artist Prince. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It was, I've worked with everybody I want to work with. There's no person athlete artists that we didn't get to touch. It's the ones that passed away. I've had, whether it's Kobe, I mean, all the greats, Prince, just because he was such an artist. And he didn't do endorsements. I think he would have did ours. Like, I think I'm the kind of guy that he would have said, I kind of like you, in his Prince voice. And we would have made something. Who knows what it would look like if it would have been practical. But he's the person that I feel like I could have gotten him to think about a brand in a different way. But be Prince.
How
about
François?
I'm not going to answer.
You have to answer.
No, I can give you one. Actually, it's not who would I wish to work with, because she's perfectly alive, and I love her, and I think she would be a great person to be with our brand, even though when you think about the way she runs her career, it's basically comes, strikes at the highest possible level, then vanishes again for years, comes back, okay, then goes away and comes back. And I wouldn't need for her to be, oh, look, I wear AP. It's much more for what she stands for, which she is as a human being. And I've never met her in my life, so it's a judgment call. But I think I respect her a lot in a sense of that capacity to succeed at the highest possible level and then be completely normal for years after that. And I'm talking about Britney Spears. Who said Britney Spears? Go to your room. Adele. Sure. Absolutely.
Amazing.
Outstanding talent, a lot of humility in the way she is, and she would be a dream. That's a message. Adele, if you're listening, we're waiting for you.
He knows what he's doing. You're welcome.
maybe to us, the original collaboration were commission watches from royal families and countries and other things like that. And we see, maybe to us, the original collaboration maybe is the Omani crest. And maybe it's a dream, and to see maybe the concept to be in a tourbillon shape with the Omani crest in it, similar to your watches with Marvel. Is that a possibility? This is for you, Monsieur Francois. And to you, Omar, I would just like to say kudos on your collaboration with the US team during the Olympics, and that led you into having non-branded beats later on because of the relationship that happened because of the sponsors.
I'll tell you the story also. So I'll tell you the story also after he answers your question. Okay. So I'll give you a funny story. So collaborations, right? Before the 2012 Olympics in London, I wanted to sign Michael Phelps. So I called my team, I set a meeting. Michael Phelps comes to my office. He's sitting next to me, we're talking about what the collaboration could be. And I knew if I had Michael Phelps, LeBron James, Serena Williams, and a few others, I was good. I had Neymar Jr., I was okay. So Michael Phelps was really important to me. We have this great conversation, and we get to the end of the conversation, and his agent goes, "How much money?" Right? Which is it's a right question. Let's just say I was missing a full zero, okay, when I gave him my answer. So he gets really mad. He's leaving. The meeting's a bad meeting now. He's leaving. And I'm making small talk. I said, "Hey, are you excited about the Olympics in London?" He goes, "I love London, but I hate the athlete village," right? And I said, "Why?" He was like, "It sucks." And then door slams, he goes away. That was a seed, okay? What I did in London wasn't partner with the American team. What I did was I created a space for the athletes to come and relax and get away from the athlete village. You know what they feed the athletes in the athlete village? Sponsor food. Who's the number one sponsor of the Olympics, guys?
McDonald's.
Food. Okay, exactly. And that's what they're feeding the athletes, or there's like a line of food, right? There's sponsors, there's media, there's coaches. It's not a fun place for them in a very fun time. We gave them a fun place to be. And let me tell you how I know it worked. So number one, we had a lot of athletes wearing headphones. So many so that Michael Phelps did not wear Beats. He signed with another company. But because so many other athletes had Beats on, everyone thought Michael Phelps had Beats on, right? So it kind of worked against him. I can tell you it worked also because in Brazil, 2016, I met 4 different babies that came from athletes that met at our space, meaning it worked. Like people really came and connected, right? So it's that little seed he planted with me where he told me the athlete village was terrible. That became our biggest marketing idea. By the way, we had that idea, and then we had the Coca-Cola headphones. You would think that the Coca-Cola headphones, recycled Coca-Cola bottles would be huge. That was a huge thing. So back to like having a couple different options, but that's the backstory behind Michael Phelps, and like it was a really interesting time in London.
And to answer the first part of the question, the answer is we don't really close doors that easily at AP. It's always an open door discussion. It doesn't mean that we're going to say yes, but we listen.
Yes, the mindset of the Omani royals, they change brands every now and then.
Sure.
Hello, François-Henry. Lovely to see you here. Astrid Wendland from Miss Tweed, your favorite journalist. François-Henry, you're probably one of the most admired CEO in the watch industry. I think actually a lot of people would dream of working with you and they haven't. You're leaving at the end of this year. You've kept very secret about what you want to do next. And I've heard maybe you want to do something completely different, like the Monty Python say. And now for something completely different. Could you give us a whiff, a hint of what you're going to do next?
Absolutely not. Thank you for asking. Next.
Got a question in the back, one right here.
Yeah, hi. This regarding Web3 is all about collaborations. Web3 is all about collaborations. So what is your future about moving towards Web3 for brands and in terms of marketing? And what's your view about the metaverse in the future, 5-10 years from today, for both of you?
Wait, I didn't get
Web3.
Web3 is all about collaborations. So where does AP see themselves in terms of marketing and being in the Web3 space? And even for you, sir. And second is the metaverse. Where does AP see themselves in the metaverse, say like 5 to 7 years from today, and in for you?
Okay, so about the metaverse, it's something that was very, very, very noisy 3 years ago. And funny enough, no one even talks about it right now, if you pay attention to it. Does it mean it's dead? Absolutely not. Does it mean that we need to keep an eye on what's going on because there is something that's going to eventually come back and do something slightly interesting or very interesting? We don't know that yet. So when you run a brand, especially a brand which is 148 years old, you cannot just close the door to everything. You have to pay attention to what's going on in the world. One of the biggest advice and the regular advice I give to young people working for Audemars Piguet and even people not working for AP, be curious. Look out there. Always be on the chase of what would come next. If you're curious, at some point, like Omar was saying before, you could eventually start to plant seed and see what's going to happen. Collabs will always be a part of what we do. Because the very first collab, when you think about AP, is what? Jules Audemars and Edouard Piguet. It's a startup of the 19th century. Two great watchmakers partnering together, collaborating together for creating something which is 140 years later, one of the top brands in the world. So in that respect, it's already in our DNA, it's in our blood. So we should never close the door to this, and I do believe there will be more to come. We're going to announce some for 2024, and there's a little, on November 30th, there will be a big one, this year, so in a few weeks. I'm going to end up my career at AP with a big, big collaboration, big one.
My quick answer on Web3 metaverse, you're probably also thinly veiling a question around AI. It's similar to François in that I look at technology a little bit like wine, right? Going first always ends best. You want it to mellow a little bit and you want it to stabilize. I watched every brand go out there and chase Web3, all to now have a lot of those investments be put on hold. And same thing with the metaverse, right? Now, my children, I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. They're growing up in their version of the metaverse, and that is alive. And that will, you look at the Fortnites of the world, you look at the Roblox of the world, brands will have to start to find their way there, right? And that will be something they need to invest in. I don't believe AI will be a flash in the pan. I'm deeply invested in it myself. I do think it's new internet, so that is something that we do have to think about. And this guy is already on it, as he mentioned in the last panel. So I think each technology, I think there's a natural maturation period. I agree, it's not always to be the first. The first, most of the time, kind of gets killed. So it's really fun to kind of be the second, be the third, but do it well. And let the technology take some time to stabilize, let people adopt it. You don't win any awards for being first if nobody cares, or if your product is obsolete. So I tend to be a little bit like a conservative and very curious at the same time to see when's the right time to strike.
Any more questions? Oh.
Gentlemen, firstly, thank you for a great panel and a really good free-flowing discussion. Francois, I had a question for you. During the discussion today, you said very much about how collaboration very much started in the 90s and the 2000s with celebrities. And during your time as CEO, you've put the client much more at the core of the brand through the sales model, through AP House, and bringing your clients much closer together. We saw earlier this year, not a collaboration, but a client combining two of their passions, AP and Rolls-Royce, with a coach-built car that had the AP in. Could you touch upon that as a new, and of course it wasn't an official collaboration between the brands, but a way of a client leading the collaboration between their passions and two brands?
So without disclosing too much, even though now the car is known because there has been a ton of media about the release of that car, one of our top clients in the world has had and has developed a relationship with Rolls-Royce for many, many years and launched a car on his own already 3 years ago, which was pretty unique, and released this summer something beyond, I have to say, in terms of the car industry and what Rolls-Royce could actually do. And that client came to us and said, I would love for AP to have a watch in the car. But I say, yeah, but if it cannot be gimmicky. It's not, oh, I'm going to put something, or I'm going to have a quartz clock in the car. Either we do it right, and we go full for the full Monty, or we're not going to do it. And eventually, we ended up having a concept watch, a unique piece made for the car. We developed the system that allows the watch to come out of the dashboard. We did this, not Rolls-Royce, but we had a lot of issues because when you touch a car, there are a lot of security issues and rules and regulations, but we managed to develop something truly special. We never made a point of communicating about this because this is what we call the collaborations under the radar. Okay, that was a Rolls-Royce car launched with one of our top clients. We eventually helped a little bit on doing something with the watch in there. And as I said, maybe there will be other things like this in the future, but it's a little bit, it comes and goes. It's not something where, oh, now we got to go in every car, for every client, for every part. No, it doesn't work this way.
A couple of builds, not about that. Everything we've talked about today has a story. There's a story of people meeting. There's a story of when it got hard, when it was broken, why it was impossible, that we find a way to get over. That's another part that I ask you all to consider when you think about collaborations. Make sure there's an authentic story. People buy into stories. And a lot of these celebrity collaborations, when they don't have a story, those are the ones that die. Like I recently learned how Petrus became popular. You know the story about Petrus?
No.
So guy from France goes to America, says, I want to sell some wine. He takes over a couple of cases of wine, sells his wine, and he sells most of the wine. He's going back. He's taken back a couple of cases. And the story may differ a little bit by number of cases. But going back, has a couple of cases. He's on a train, I think. And there's a guy behind him who goes, hey, I like some of your, I like wine. I'm drinking wine. I love some of your wine. He says, here, take a bottle, taste it out, test it out, let me know what you think. He gets back, guy takes wine, guy drinks it, guy goes, wow, this is the best wine I've ever had. Fast forward, that guy was a president, he was Kennedy. And that's a big part of how their name became like synonymous with the best wine in the world. There was a person, celebrity, in the moment, who said he loved their product. And they had this whole train ride as a story. And now that wine is one of the most expensive wines in the world. But again, it's that story, right? It's not just the person was hired. The person actually wasn't hired in this case. He found someone of immense authority, an authentic moment that led to the wine being an icon. I see a question back there. Is that a question? Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. I trust you're well.
Good afternoon.
I guess the question is for Mr. Francois. Will we see another sort of interaction with AP as you did with Wristcheck for the competition that was running where like a translation of the dials? I think that was a collaboration of sorts, and I mean, the submissions were nice. Although we didn't see everything, I'm sure you saw some very mind-blowing stuff. Will we be seeing a little more of that? And will they be translated into watches that are offered? It doesn't have to be like every year, but like every now and then, because I think that was a very nice sort of interaction between the brand and the people behind it, and like a translation of, how they see AP.
Okay, so like we spoke about before, involving our clients makes complete sense for me in today's world. And last year, when we had the 50th anniversary of the Royal Oak, it made sense to launch a contest. And we did this with Austen and Wristcheck. We got over 4,000 designs. 4,000 designs from everywhere in the world. And some of them were really outstanding. We kept 6. So before we go on another competition, we have at least 5 years to go really seeing the 6 watches we're working on because we took very hard challenges on the 6 designs. The 6 designs are pushing us into places that we've never experienced before, and it's going to take maybe even more than 5 years to release them. So before we see another contest, it's going to take a little bit of time.
Sadly, I would like to see a lot more contests, of course. But yeah.
Right here in the front.
Is this you?
Yeah, it's me.
Sunshine!
Hey guys, good afternoon. Francois, my question's for you. But before my question, I want you to know that you're really awesome. And the feats that you've reached in Audemars Piguet are really commendable. The way you've grown the revenue of the company, the interest you brought towards the brand. It's a real challenge for the next CEO. And I really feel the company will never feel the same without you. My question for you...
No, Arbab, I cannot let you say that. Let's put it this way. First of all, the new CEO is, and I'm not paid to say that, trust me, is outstanding. Great human being, great visionary, she's sharp, and she's gonna go into that brand like you don't expect. It's really good. And more than this, if for whatever reason, because the second I'm out of that brand, the brand feels slightly less, or is not as good, I wouldn't have done my job properly. Because I didn't go there for 11 years. I've been 29 years with the company, and through these 29 years, I saw crises, and we weathered storm, and we got so many issues, and we dealt with so many things which were not perfect. Absolutely not perfect. And for where we are today, we are far from being perfect. We are just better, okay, at what we do compared to where we were years ago. So on that note, we always work 4, 5, 6 years in advance, no matter what. So trust me, the company is in good shape.
Okay, I trust you. But I'm looking forward to meeting her then.
Okay.
My 2 questions is, the first one, will we ever have a Star Wars collaboration like you've had the Marvel? The second question is, which is your favorite watch from the entire Audemars Piguet collection from the time you started working at Audemars Piguet?
Okay, so the first question, will there ever be a Star Wars partnership? The answer is, I don't think so. Because, again, there are so many things we are working on that by the time the door could open, don't forget the Marvel venture is not done. There will be a Marvel 3 and maybe a Marvel 4, so we have to pace. We cannot go left and right on this topic. And I don't have a favorite watch per se, because basically it's always about the next one. There is something I can share with you on a funny note.
Okay.
We launched recently the Perpetual Calendar Ceramic Blue.
Yes.
Okay? And everybody is driving me insane with that watch to get it, because it's not even a limited edition, but we've made only 250 watches. Everybody wants that blue ceramic. Guess what? In 2025, we're going to launch another blue. A blue I've been dreaming about for 10 years. And I won't be able to get it because it's after my time. I've been waiting for that new blue for 10 years. And everybody's driving me insane with that blue, which is not the one I love the most. So it's always about the next one. Okay?
Okay.
I think. Oh,
One in the back.
one last question.
Just a quick one. How many collaborations are too many?
How many collaborations are too many? Omar?
I would say you're doing too many when you're doing them fast, when you don't have a story, when they're not authentic, and you don't really put the time and care. Everything that he's talked about, I've talked about, we're finding impossibilities, being curious and solving them. If you're not finding those things, it's not storytelling, that's when it becomes too many. So as a person who's done a lot, there's no number, but there was an effort that went behind every one. There's a story that went behind every one. There's a push on materials, on packaging, on point of view, on pricing, on merchandising. That was hard. that made it worth doing. There's no number, but if you don't have those critical elements along the way, authenticity being the number one with those stories and follow through and everything else we talked about, that's when I think you're doing too many. So I think it's more the inertia of the process. If you don't have the inertia and you're just spitting them out, you probably don't have meaningful collaborations.
And my way of answering to that question is this. Between the years 2000 and 2010, we made many limited editions. Too many. Up to the point where, so we made those mistakes. And that's a part of running a business. It's not always right. And when we started to hear the clients complaining about the fact that we're making too many, it took us maybe another 2 to 3 years to really slow down. At some point, it was representing close to 10% of our global production. Today, it represents less than 2%, so it's almost nothing. So it's a fair balance between exclusivity and purpose to make sure it's legit and people will look into it, say, okay, I can buy into this because I know why they are doing it and it makes complete sense. Never forget that when you do this, no matter what you do, you're going to be exposed and judged. And as good as a collaboration could be, people will look at it and say, this is the worst thing I've seen in my life. So you have to be willing to play the game because that's what it is when you run a business in today's world.
Amazing. On that note, thank you everyone so much for attending. Hope you guys enjoyed and learned something.